What is going on, everybody? My name is Nick. Welcome back to Comic Culture. We're going to do another late night review of the books we picked up on April 7th, 2021. We got a bunch to go through, so let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back. We're doing another late night review, so I had to get my coffee going. So salute to Bueller and Bob. Got my dark roast here. Keeps me awake. So what do we got first? Man, there's a lot of good books this week. Where do you want to start? We'll start with Boom, with Magic the Gathering, #1. So I got that cool Planeswalker Assassin cover, which I really think I'm going to love, especially with the purple lights behind me, under my desk, behind me. So I think I might actually put this one up on the wall just because it matches the aesthetic. So what did I think about Magic? I never really read the books. I don't know much about the lore. I have played Magic on and off for a very long time. I just recently picked it up in Arena. So if you want to battle in Arena, leave your ID in the Instagram DM, or you can leave it in the comments if you want to. But this is a decent introduction to the story, I thought. It kind of goes over different factions and different Planewalkers run these different factions. And all of a sudden one day there's some kind of a coordinated attack, and they don't know it's a coordinated attack at the time, but they kind of regroup afterwards and they find out that they have a common enemy. And so now they have to figure out what that means and what they're going to do to go forward to protect their area, right? So I did like the writing, I did like the art, and this was Jed MacKay. And I think it was a good introduction. The coloring was really good. It has kind of a cartoony vibe to it, and which was okay for what it is. But I don't really have any frame of reference for Magic or how it's been handled in the past. So I think it was just good enough for me to be curious about what issue 2 is going to bring. And maybe it's just because I'm a little bit interested in Magic in general. But if I wasn't a fan of Magic at all and had little expectations and I liked the art style, I think I'd be more drawn to it. But yeah, I think it did it just enough for me to be interested in issue 2. So that's what I thought about Magic. Did you guys read this yet? And did you get the different Planewalker covers? Because if you did, let me know which ones you got. I might be interested in picking up the other ones and seeing if I get lucky with some of the other Planeswalkers. All right. Let's go on to Image. Have a few Image books. We're going to go to Nocterra #2. So Nocterra #2, I really liked it. So this is Scott Snyder doing what he does best. Great premise. Essentially the world's gone black. If you're in it long enough, you turn into like these beasts. And so civilizations have kind of fallen, and the ones that have stayed alive have known to put lights all over them to stay illuminated, which is a pretty interesting concept. And so this main character here is kind of like a driver between cities to bring supplies or to bring people or whatever. So she's been hired by these two folks in the bottom, this old man and this little girl, to go to another city. And that is her brother right there in the corner. And they find out that these two people are being tracked by this mysterious black person. And so he's dressed all in black. He's kind of like that infinite black color. I don't know if you can see that, but he's right over there. And the coloring is just amazing in this book. I think that's what really kind of does it for me. The art style, the coloring. And let me know if you read this book, if you had flashbacks to Walking Dead issue 100 on this particular page, because I kind of felt the evilness in this character pretty quickly, and he was pretty ruthless, and I had this Negan vibe when I got to this particular page. He kind of reminded me of that. And do you guys remember the impact that particular comic had, that issue, that Negan cover? Are we ever going to have that kind of drama in a few panels like we did back then? Maybe it's just fresh in my mind and I don't really have too much to compare it to. But anyways, this book is awesome. I really, really like this book. The art, the color, and the story all just line up perfectly for me. And I cannot wait to get issue #3. So I'm loving Nocterra. couple more Image books. We have Geiger. Geiger #1, Jeff Johns. Highly anticipated book. I really enjoyed the first 3/4 of the story. So we do get an origin story of what Geiger is and what the explosion is and, what that means for the different people. We get a pretty, what I would consider, unfortunately, a pretty realistic origin story for the character. It just kind of shows how people are when it comes to protecting their family and themselves and how selfless or selfish people can get. We do get some good action scenes in here. The art is good. So yeah, it is a good origin story for this character. The last quarter of the book was a little bit surprising to me because it kind of zooms out of the local town that we're kind of in, and it kind of shows, the other people that are around, and it's kind of comical. It reminds me of like a Joffrey from Game of Thrones, and once you read it, you'll kind of know what I mean. So I did not see the last quarter of this book coming. I did not see that at all based on what I've read so far. I really enjoyed this book right here. I think it's going to be really nice once we kind of start mixing the different clans together. Because right now you have our main character, and then you have like this outside group that's kind of scavenging into his territory, and he does not appreciate that. So Geiger #2, I'm looking forward to. This was a pretty good introduction to the character and setting up some of the world building. So I liked Geiger. And there's a lot of different covers for this too. I wish I would have found some different ones. That one where it's just the guy like all in green, I thought that was pretty cool. Wish I got that one. Okay. Last independent book is Silver Coin #1, Chip Zdarsky. So this is going to have a different writer each story, but I believe that Michael Walsh is still going to do the art, which I think is good. I really hate it what's worse, when a writer changes halfway through a story or, intermittently through a story, or when the artist changes. I'm still relatively new to comics. I've been reading for 5 years, but I really haven't, used the magnifying glass and didn't really analyze the different writing styles and stuff, but things have popped over time. But I do notice when art changes all of a sudden, and it's irritating for me. So maybe some of you veterans out there feel the same way about artists. I'm now coming to that point, but it's going to be fun to see where this book goes. But essentially, it's the story of this failing rock band who can't quite get with the times. Disco's coming in, they play rock, they're playing to empty crowds, and they find this silver coin, which imbues the guitarist with this just insane ability to just rock, right? And so they start pulling in the crowds and whatnot, but things don't work out the way that they expect. So it has a little bit of the band drama that you come to know from, different movies where one person wants to just explode and move on, and the other people just kind of want to stay here and just rock the little houses, So I think some of the covers give away the ending a little bit. You can see here some of the fingers are falling off and whatever. So it's got a little bit of a horror aspect. Probably not a little bit. It's got a lot of horror aspect to it. And I'm really anxious to see what's going to happen. I won't give away the last couple panels, but I'm curious to know, is this going to pick up in issue 2 right where it leaves off in issue 1? Or is it going to be like a haha ice cream man, name whatever, series you want where it's all somewhat connected, but it's not really. I'm wondering if they're going to pick up right from this last panel with the next story, or are they going to just, write a whole new story using the silver coin, and it's going to be imbued with some kind of magical ability, or it's going to enhance the person that's using it at the time. So that's going to be fun to see. So I am looking forward to Silver Coin #2. So I had a blast with that one. All right. Let's go over to DC. I got a couple DC books. We'll start with Batman 107. James Tynion. So this was a good issue. I don't feel like a lot happened in the issue. Batman's running around trying to figure out what Scarecrow's doing. Scarecrow's, terrorizing the town, but he's not really using fear toxin. He's using just these kind of Scarecrow statues that he's kind of putting up everywhere, and that's enough to scare people because of the Arkham attack recently. So a lot of people are just in fear in general, which is interesting because he doesn't have to use the toxin. And, you know, we get to see Harley in here. We get to see a lot of Oracle in here. Harley has a really cool run-in with some little thug that happens to be around. And this guy, I believe, is part of a kind of a new gang that's kind of sprung up. And so they got to figure out, you know, how dangerous this new gang is. So Batman's trying to figure out all these things. Where's Scarecrow? Why is he setting up these things? You know, who's this new group? And Harley is in here a lot. Like I said, Oracle's in here a lot. We have a Ghostmaker scene. And there's actually a Ghostmaker backup story in the very, very end. In the first, 2 or 3 pages? Were kind of shocking. If you haven't read it yet, I'll spare you the details. But if you have read it, what the heck were they doing in the first page? I mean, we all know what they were doing. But, like, I don't know. It's a little bit weird, man. But he's basically, you know, infiltrating a super rich person's place, and that super rich person has hired some people to help defend, and she's tired of Ghostmaker's crap, dealing with, you know, taking out a lot of her shipments and things like that. So she kind of lures him in to try to take him out, and Ghostmaker's there to kick some ass, right? So we'll see. I like Ghostmaker, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what kind of legs he has. I don't really like his dialogue. He's very, very arrogant. He's very self-assured, which is cool, but you know, that can get annoying once you don't have enough backstory. And, you know, did they earn that arrogance, or did they earn that coolness, I guess? I don't know. He doesn't seem like the same person we saw in Future State. So we'll see. We'll see. It was an okay issue. It wasn't the best issue. Okay, so speaking of really good issues, so we have Ram V on Swamp Thing. So this is Swamp Thing number 2. I loved Infinite Frontiers. What was it, 2 issues? That was really, really cool. I didn't like the first one that much. The second one blew me away. The first one of this blew me away, and the second one was even better, I think. So I'm not a big Swamp Thing guy. I don't really have a lot of knowledge on Swamp Thing. So this is a really good way of coming into that character. So if you don't know who Swamp Thing is and you're looking for a jump on point, obviously this is a perfect choice, especially with Ram V on the title. So you can't go wrong there. So we get a little bit about an origin story. We get a tease of some kind of like voodoo magic that happened, and someone's taken the Swamp Thing mantle. So he doesn't quite know if, you know, it kind of starts off as like a nightmare. So every night when he goes to sleep, he thinks he has a nightmare. He's really out, you know, exploring, you know, showing up in Texas and fighting this pale wanderer guy who's just so cool. He's like this ghost that's been haunting this area, I think in Texas, right? Where he's been drinking crude oil and stuff like that since like the cowboy times or whatever it was. And he's kind of attacking, killing all these people. And Swamp Thing is completely helpless because he just doesn't quite understand what's happening, and it feels like a nightmare still. But he slowly kind of realizes this is real, and he kind of gets his bearings, and he can actually kind of strike back a little bit. So, I mean, the art is crazy. The writing is super good. The lettering is amazing. And I think the ending reminds me of issue 2, Future State. And it's reminiscent of that. And I think once you read it, you'll understand what I mean. But super, super good book. I've never been I've always liked the character Swamp Thing. I've never read Swamp Thing, but I've always loved Ram V. And so this is like the perfect book to get into the character. It's a great story, great introduction. I just love it. I can't say much. I can't say anything else about it. It's insane. All right. What do we got left? We got 2 books left. We have Venom and King in Black. So I'll go over Venom first. So Venom by Sir Cates, issue 34. Kind of I don't want to call it a throwaway issue. I'm trying to be careful with my words. I like the book. But I like the book because it essentially told the story we just were told in King in Black 4, just over again. I think the first, all these pages are just essentially rehashed from before. There's a little bit of progression once the God of Light enters the battle, a little bit of a progression there. And then the very last, 2 panels, they actually show a little bit of new material. But, you know, I would say, from what I can tell, you got to read this one first. Because if you read this one first and then go back to here, you're kind of backtracking. So go with Venom first and then read King in Black. So, you know, we don't really progress the story too much in Venom. It's one tiny little stepping stone that gets us to King in Black, and I don't even think it's a smooth transition. It might be a smooth transition. Maybe I should go back and look at 33 and see, you know, where we were there. And then I'll be anxious to see what the next issue is and see if this kind of flows better, because it doesn't seem like it flows with this. But that's okay. That's okay. Venom's great, and if you just kind of stick to that run, you'll be fine. But King in Black is where it's at. This is probably my favorite book of the week. This or Nocterra or Swamp Thing. So King in Black, number 5. It's the conclusion to the Null story. And I love this book because it's kind of fan service for me in a way. I mean, it plays out exactly how I thought it would play out. It's obvious. There's no tricks. There's no whatever. But I actually really, really loved it because it was straightforward. We actually got some insane art with Stegman. It's incredible. I love the art. I love the coloring. The story is predictable, but I didn't care. I loved the whole ride. And there was some cool things that he did with Venom and Null in this particular book. Some creative things that were done, and some things that we've seen before in the MCU movies. Some things we said, oh, maybe that, you know, I'm surprised that happened, but not at the same time. So you'll kind of pick up on that as you read it. You're like, oh, well, we just saw that recently, but it was still cool and I liked it. You get a little bit of Blade action in here. Who doesn't like Blade? Surfer. You get an Avengers Assemble. Yeah, man, I just wish some X books were like this too. And that's not entirely fair because I don't really give the X books much a chance. So perhaps there's just amazing stuff out there that I'm just not reading right now. But yeah, man, it's just crazy. It's really fun to see super overpowered superheroes taking on, you know, leading up to this issue, super overpowered villains. So yeah, I really, really love this book. I'm super sad it's going away. And I'm excited to see what happens in Venom 200, which I believe is the next issue, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, this is 199 Legacy, or issue 34. And we get our Venom 200 after this. So I am looking forward to that. All right. And that's all I read this week. So what did you guys get in your polls? And did you read any of these books? And did you think of something that I didn't in this book? Did I miss anything? What else should I be picking up? And what'd you think of the review? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, hit the like, the subscribe button, the notification bell. You know the drill. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks again for hanging out with me late at night. I'm going to finish my coffee. I'm going to play some games. We'll talk to you later.